Lesson 5. The Lost Child. It was the festival of spring. From the wintry shades of narrow lanes and alleys emerged a gaily clad humanity, thick as a swarm of bright-colored rabbits issuing from a warren. They entered the flooded sea of sparkling silver sunshine outside the city gates and moved towards the fair. Some walked, some rode on horses, others sat, being carried in bamboo and bullock carts. One little boy ran between his parents' legs, brimming over with life and laughter. "Come, child, come," called his parents as he lagged behind, attracted by the toys in the shops that lined the way. He hurried towards his parents, his feet obedient to their call, his eyes still lingering on the receding toys. As he came to where they had stopped to wait for him, he could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knew the old, cold stare of refusal in their eyes. "I want that toy," he pleaded. His father looked at him red-eyed in his familiar, tyrannical way. His mother, melted by the free spirit of the day, was tender and, giving him her finger to hold, said, "Look, child, what is before you." The faint disgust of the child's unfulfilled desire had hardly been quelled in the heavy, pouting sob of a breath mother when the pleasure of what was before him filled his eager eye. They had come upon a footpath in a field. It was a bowering mustard field, pale like melting gold as it swept across miles and miles of even land and river of yellow liquid light, ebbing and falling with each fresh eddy of wild wind and straying in places into broad, rich tributaries, yet running in a constant sunny sweep towards the distant mirage of an ocean of silver light. Where it ended, on one side stood a cluster of low mud-walled houses, thrown into relief by a dense crowd of yellow-robed men and women from whom arose a high-pitched sequence of whistling, creaking, squeaking, roaring, humming noises, sweeping across the groves to the blue-throated sky like the weird, strange sound of Shiva's mad laughter. The child looked up at his father and mother, saturated with shrill joy and wonder of this vast glory, and feeling that they too wore the evidence of this pure delight in their faces. He left the footpath and plunged headlong into the field, prancing like a young colt, his small feet teeming with the fitful gust of wind that came rich with the fragrance of more distant fields. He ran towards his parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while. However, being soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and worms along the footpath that were emerging from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. "Come, child, come," his parents called from the shade of a grove where they had seated themselves on the edge of a well. He ran towards them. An old banyan here outstretched its powerful arms over the blossoming jackfruit and jamun and neem and champak and shisha, and cast its shadows across beds of golden kazas and crimson gulmohar, as an old grandmother spreads her skirts over her young ones. A shower of flower petals fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to gather the raining petals in his hands. But lo, he heard the cooing of a dove and ran towards his parents, shouting, "The dove! The dove!" The raining petals dropped from his forgotten hands. "Come, child, come," they called to the child, who had now gone running in wild capers round the banyan tree, and gathering him up, they took the narrow, winding footpath which led to the fair through the mustard fields. A sweetmeat seller hawked gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner of the entrance, and a crowd pressed round his counter at the foot of an architecture of many colored sweets decorated with leaves of silver and gold. The child stared open-eyed, and his mouth watered for the barfi that was his favorite sweet. "I want that barfi," he slowly murmured. But he half knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded, because his parents would say he was greedy. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. A flower seller hawked a garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar. The child went towards the basket where the flowers were heaped and half murmured, "I want that garland." But he well knew his parents would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say they were dear. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green and purple balloons flying from it. The child was now carried away by the rainbow glory of the silken colors, and he was possessed by an overwhelming desire to have them all. But he well knew his parents would never buy him the balloons because they would say he was too old to play with such toys. So he walked on farther. A juggler stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in a basket. It had raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan, while the music stole into its visible ears like the gentle rippling of a soft, slow waterfall. The child went towards the juggler, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the jugglers played, he proceeded farther. There was a roundabout in full swing. Men, women, and children carried away in a whirling motion, shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. The child watched them intently, going round and round till he felt that he himself was being carried around. The ring seemed to go fiercely at first, then gradually it began to move less fast. Presently the child, wrapped finger in his mouth, saw it stop. This time he made a bold request, "I want to go on the roundabout, please, father, mother." There was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there in front of him. He turned to look on either side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. A full, deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in red fear. Mother, father! Tears rolled down his eyes, hot and fierce. His flushed face was convulsed with fear. Panic stricken, he ran to one side first, then to the other, hither and thither in all directions, knowing not where to go. Mother, father, he wailed with a moist, shrill breath now, his throat being wet with swallowing of spittle. His yellow turban came untied, and his clothes, wet with perspiration, became muddy where the dust has mixed with the sweat of his body. His light frame seemed heavy as a mass of lead. At a little distance on the green grass, he could see through his wet eyes men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of bright yellow clothes, but there was no sign of his father and mother among these people, who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. He ran again, this time to a shrine to which people seemed to be crowding. Every little inch of space there was congested with men, but he ran through people's legs, his little sob lingering. Mother, father, near the entrance to the temple, however, the crowd became very thick. Men jostled each other, heavy men with flashing, murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. A man in the surging crowd heard his cry and, stopping with very great difficulty, lifted him up in his arms. How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked as he steered clear of the mass. The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. The man tried to soothe him by taking him to the roundabout. Will you have a lift on the horse? He gently asked as he approached the ring. The child's throat tore into wild, deep, shrill sobs, and he only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. The man headed towards the place where the juggler still played on the flute to the dancing korba. Listen to that nice music, child, he pleaded. But the child shut his ears with his fingers and shouted his double-pitched strain, I want my mother, I want my father. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors would distract the child's attention and quieten him. Would you like a rainbow-colored balloon? He persuasively asked. The child turned his eyes from the flying balloons and just sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. The man is still importunate in his kindly desire to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller said, Look, can you smell those nice flowers, child? Would you like a garland to put round your neck? The child turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated his sob, I want my mother, I want my father. Thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets, the man took him to the counter of the sweet shop. What sweets would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. Mulk Raj Anand. Word meaning. Brimming, fill or be full to the brim. Lingering, slay. Receding, go or shrink back. Tyrannical, dictatorial. Bowering, enclosed. Ebbing, to flow back or away. Mirage, something illusory. Saturated, soaked or filled with. Cassis, a black currant. Crimson, a deep red color. Capers, sky playfully. Overwhelming, overpowering. Wrapped, deeply engrossed. Convulsed, deeply. Convulsed, shook violently. Congested, overcrowded. Importunate, annoying and troublesome. Reiterated, repeated. Disconsolate, who cannot be consoled or given solace. Let's learn grammar. Verb forms in the passive. Tense, verb from passage. Examples. Simple present tense is am, are plus third form of the verb. Example. A postman deliver our letters. Active. Our letters are delivered by a postman. Passive. Simple past tense. Was verb plus third form of the verb. Example. His friend pushed him into the corner. Active. He was pushed into the corner. Passive. Simple future tense. Will shall plus be plus third form of the verb. He will solve this problem soon. Active. This problem will be solved by him soon. Passive. Present progressive tense is am, are plus being plus third form of the verb. She is writing a letter to her friend. Active. A letter is being written by her to her friend. Passive. Past progressive tense was verb plus being plus third form of the verb. He was writing a letter to the editor. Active. A letter was being written by him to his editor. Passive. Present perfect tense has, have plus being plus third form of the verb. He has informed the police about the theft. Active. The police has been informed by him about the theft. Passive. Past perfect tense has been plus third form of the verb. She had thrown away all apples before I reached. Active. All the apples had been thrown away by her before I reached. Passive. Future perfect tense will, shall plus have been plus third form of the verb. The teacher will have completed the lesson by 4 p.m. Active. The lesson will have been completed by the teacher by 4 p.m. Passive.